Avoiding early overcapitalization, maintaining control while growing. The risks of raising too much capital too soon. In the early stages of a business, raising capital is often seen as a vital step toward growth and expansion. However, securing too much capital too quickly can have serious consequences for a founder's control over the company. This is known as overcapitalization, and while it might seem like a positive at first, after all, who wouldn't want more funds to fuel growth? The long-term effects can be detrimental to the founder's ownership and influence. When you raise large amounts of capital early on, you often have to give up substantial equity in exchange for investment. This dilution of ownership reduces your voting power and control over key decisions. As investors gain more equity, they have a greater say in the direction of the company, and you, as the founder, may be left with little influence over the business you created. Why founders should be cautious about overcapitalization. One of the biggest dangers of overcapitalization is the loss of majority ownership. If you give away too much equity early, you may find yourself in a position where investors or board members hold more control over the company than you do. This can lead to decisions being made that don't align with your original vision for the company, or even the risk of being replaced as CEO. Key risks of overcapitalization include loss of control over decision-making. The more equity you give away, the more influence investors have over the direction of the company. You may lose your ability to make key decisions about the company's future. Pressure for short-term gains. Investors who hold significant equity may push for rapid returns on their investment, focusing on short-term profitability rather than the company's long-term growth strategy. Dilution of founder equity. The more capital you raise, the more diluted your ownership becomes. This can limit your ability to guide the company and reap the full rewards of its success. How to maintain a larger stake in your business. To avoid the pitfalls of early overcapitalization, it's important to be strategic about how much capital you raise and when you raise it. Here are some tips on how to maintain a larger stake in your business while still securing the funding you need for growth. 1. Raise only what you need. It's tempting to raise as much money as possible when investors are interested, but raising more than you need often means giving away unnecessary equity. Instead, focus on raising enough capital to meet specific milestones or goals. This allows you to retain more ownership while still funding the company's growth. 2. Consider phased fundraising. Rather than raising a large amount of capital in a single round, consider breaking fundraising into smaller, phased rounds. This allows you to demonstrate growth and meet milestones before raising additional funds, which can help you negotiate better terms in later rounds and limit how much equity you give away each time. 3. Explore alternative financing options. Equity-based funding isn't the only way to grow your business. By exploring alternative financing methods, you can access the capital you need without giving up as much control of the company. Alternatives to equity-based funding. To maintain control and ownership, founders should consider a range of financing alternatives that don't involve giving away large portions of equity. These options allow you to fund growth while protecting your role as the leader of your company. 1. Debt financing. Loans or lines of credit can provide the capital you need to grow without diluting your ownership. Although you will have to repay the debt with interest, you retain control over the business and don't have to give away equity to investors. Number 2, revenue-based financing. In this model, investors receive a percentage of your company's future revenue in exchange for capital, rather than taking an ownership stake. This allows you to retain equity while paying back investors as your company generates income. 3. Grants and government programs. Many startups, particularly in technology or innovation-focused sectors, can access grants or government funding to help grow their business. These funds often don't require giving up equity and can be an excellent source of capital for early-stage companies. 4. Crowdfunding. Crowdfunding platforms allow you to raise small amounts of capital from a large number of people. This can be particularly useful for consumer-facing businesses looking to build a customer base while raising funds. While some forms of crowdfunding involve equity, others, like reward-based crowdfunding, do not. Maintaining control during growth. Even if you choose to raise equity-based capital, there are ways to structure your deals to maintain more control over your company. Offer different classes of shares. By creating different classes of shares, you can retain voting rights while offering investors non-voting shares. This allows you to raise capital without giving away decision-making power. Negotiate board representation. When raising capital, negotiate to retain a seat on the board or a certain level of decision-making power. This ensures that even if you give away some equity, you remain a central figure in the company's governance. Set clear boundaries. Clearly define the level of influence investors will have from the outset. By setting expectations early, you can avoid conflicts later on when investors try to take a more active role in the business. Conclusion. While raising capital is a critical part of growing any business, overcapitalization can lead to a loss of control and influence for founders. By carefully managing how much equity you give away, considering alternative funding options, and structuring deals that protect your ownership and voting rights, you can secure the capital you need without sacrificing control of your company. Founders must strike a balance between securing growth capital and retaining ownership, ensuring that they remain in control of their company's future while still fueling its expansion.